A Woman's Reaction to No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert A. Glover. It is human nature to be attracted to what is familiar. Because of this reality, nice guys create adult relationships that mirror the dynamics of their dysfunctional childhood relationships. I think it's a little more than that personally, and I mean, obviously he's the expert and I'm just some person doing a book review on YouTube, but I wouldn't say that it's just human nature to be attracted to what's familiar. Um, I think I think it's more than that. I think that all of us, are mimicking the relationships that we see displayed by our parents as we're growing up. You know, young people, they're like little tiny sponges. They pick up everything around them. They observe everything around them. And so if young people see their parents' relationship and say, this is how relationships should work, this is how men should act, this is how women should act, they're going to play that out later on in their lives. And so I think it's not just nice guys who are replaying their dysfunctional relationships. I think all people are replaying the relationships that they used to have, that they used to see and observe, or even have when they were kids. So I think that my relationship with my husband is very, very similar in a lot of ways to the relationship that my mother and my father had. It mimics their relationship in a lot of ways. And I think that I built that kind of relationship with my husband. Our relationship mimics the kind of relationship that his grandparents had in a lot of ways. He built that with me. I think that that also works in the case of nice guys, as Dr. Glover describes them, in a very negative way, where they see these very bad examples of human interaction, of love, of affection, and they take those examples with them into adulthood and say, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. And even if they're consciously saying, well, obviously I don't want a relationship that's falling apart all the time, they're still going by that initial template that they kind of formed inside their head, like, okay, this is how the world is put together. Um, I think it's an oversimplification to say that you just do what's familiar to you because it's familiar, and humans are drawn to what's familiar. I think it's how we think the world is put together when we're growing up. Again, he's the expert. I have a high school diploma. So we're probably safer going with what he says. It's just something that I read and it kind of stood out to me. Basically, nice guys suffer from the age-old problem of looking for love in all the wrong places. If a nice guy spends all of his time stuck in a bad relationship, it pretty much guarantees he won't find one that might work better. And that's kind of the theme of this chapter. I know that there have been a few comments that I've gotten about, well, when are you going to make a video about all the things women need to do to change to make men's lives better? And there are definitely some videos that I have to do about that subject at some point. I'm not the most agreeable with people in the world, so the more times that people are like, you need to do this in a very angry and aggressive manner, while also calling me a whore, the more times I'm just going to kind of postpone those videos a little bit. But no, the thing about this chapter here, unfortunately, is it is a critique of nice guy behavior. And Dr. Glover is looking at it and saying, I've done this too, which you can kind of see from the fact that a couple of his marriages failed. But he's saying that the tendency of nice guys, as he defines nice guys, is to start a relationship with a woman who's a fixer-upper, or a man who's a fixer-upper, as the case may be. Starting up a relationship with somebody who has problems, has issues that other people might not want to start a relationship with because of all the giant red flags. The nice guy might look at that person and say, oh, I'll fall in love with this person. He talks about it earlier in the chapter, how this conveniently draws attention away from his own problems and his own flaws. As the nice guy, he's helping this other person with their dysfunctional issues, and all the dysfunction in the relationship just kind of automatically falls at their feet. It's like, well, she's got borderline personality disorder. I mean, what can you do? And it's all these crazy things she does. It's totally her fault. Like, she's got these issues. I'm trying to be here to be nice and helpful to her and to help her out. And it completely draws all the attention away from any flaws that the nice guy himself might be suffering. which makes him seem like a nice guy, whether he's actively trying to produce this impression or not. It makes him seem like a nice guy, and he can tell himself he's a nice guy, and he doesn't have to work on any of his own problems that way. And it's not good because, yeah, he's comfortable in a weird sense in the relationship with the borderline personality gal, but she's not giving him the love that he wants or needs or deserves. And he's comfortable because he doesn't have to walk out of his own comfort zone, his own, well, I'm in my happy little bubble where I'm a nice person and I don't have to question any of my behaviors or motives. At the same time, he's miserable because he's definitely not getting anything he wants. Love, sex, affection, yeah, you can toss all that out the window. It ain't happening, man. There are no perfect relationships. There are no perfect partners. Relationships by their very nature are chaotic, eventful, and challenging. Kind of happy he wrote this too. There's been a certain degree of critique that I've seen in the red pill community of any guy who looks at it and says, well, relationships can get messy sometimes. And I think a lot of red pill guys, and they do make a very good point, when men look at their very, very messed up relationships and say, well, yeah, my wife's a harridan, but what are you going to do? That's just the way it is. That's not good, but you can't expect perfection. Human beings are inherently flawed creatures. All of us, 100% of human beings are inherently flawed creatures. So you can't expect it to be smooth sailing every single relationship you get into. And I'm kind of glad that he mentions that. She's your ideal partner, your best case scenario. She's still going to have flaws. She's still going to have things about her that are a little bit rough, things about her that aren't perfect. You can't expect perfection, but you really don't want to aim for a fixer-upper. There's a very big difference between borderline personality date and normal person who's pretty healthy and pretty well-adjusted date. They're not the same girl. Neither one of them is perfect, but that's where the similarities end. The essence of recovery from the nice guy syndrome is the conscious decision to live one's life just as one desires. I frequently encourage recovering nice guys to be just who they are, without reservation. I think that's important, and I also think it's interesting because it is it's the exact opposite of what you hear in Rational Male. There it's like, well, this be yourself idea is it's very self-help, and it's very much, for many guys, a call to simply ignore your own flaws and expect people to change around you. And that's something that you can see a lot of it in body positivity and the fat acceptance movement, a lot of things that women do for themselves as well. It's a very self-comforting kind of thing to say, oh, you're perfect just the way you are. It doesn't matter that you're morbidly obese. It doesn't matter that your body odor could knock out an ox. It doesn't matter about those things. It's you. You're important just the way you are. And at the same time, some people do actually need to hear these things. And I think that's what Dr. Glover is kind of hitting on. The fact that you need to be you. You need to be genuine, true to yourself. You need to be yourself. You can't be what you think other people want you to be, because that's where nice guys become weak and they display weakness to the world around them. It's when they try to do the things that other people want them to do, or that they think other people want them to do, just so that other people will like them. So, the nice guy who pretends that he's not into, show tunes, he's not actually being his honest self. And it's the lack of honesty that people find unpleasant. It's the lack of truth and integrity and courage, honestly, to be maybe not exactly what other people expect you to be. That's where they start falling short in other people's eyes, but they're also not doing themselves any favors. They're not happy. And what's the point of walking through life miserable if you're constantly lying to yourself and everyone around you? When a recovering nice guy sets boundaries with his partner, it makes her feel secure. In general, when women feel secure, they feel loved. this is something that's very true. This is something that I think a lot of red pill guys have kind of discovered. When a woman feels like she's got security with you, suddenly she's much more likely to feel like you love her and like everything's going well. And maybe she's not happy with you at the moment that you're putting your foot down and saying, no, no, I am going on this fishing trip. That's it. But she feels like you actually know what you want, that you're actually going to stand up for what you think is important. These things make a woman feel very secure, and of course, when we feel secure, we feel loved. We feel safe. Wounded people are attracted to wounded people. When nice guys enter a relationship, they frequently choose partners who look more dysfunctional than they do. This creates a dangerous illusion that one of them is sicker than the other. This is a distortion, because healthy people are not attracted to unhealthy people, and vice versa. Maybe that's why nice guys were never interested. Okay, let's be honest. I was pretty screwed up too. For a large part of my very early 20s, I was pretty screwed up in the head. So that's not a valid excuse, but I don't know, maybe that's the reason I wasn't interested in nice guys as much. I was trying very hard to be healthy and trying very hard to form a healthy relationship, which can be a little difficult, especially in a society where everybody thinks the first thing you should do with another person when you meet them is jump into bed. A fixer-upper may be a fun challenge when it comes to restoring a car, but it's a terrible way to choose a partner. Yeah, like this is a large part of this chapter. It's him looking at it and saying a lot of these nice guys who have these problems in their relationships, they pick women who have problems. And then those women put their problems into the relationship. The nice guy's already got his own problems in the relationship, and between the two of them, they create this dysfunctional mess. And it's easy for a lot of nice guys to pin the blame for the dysfunction on their partner, like, oh, well, she's more messed up than I am, so it's clearly her fault. But it doesn't help them solve any of their problems. It doesn't help them find happiness in a relationship. And they're not going to have a very easy time finding happiness in a relationship when they're constantly picking women who are crazy. When recovering nice guys create relationships with people who don't need fixing, they improve their odds of finding the love they want. He has here a very handy little list of traits that nice guys, recovering nice guys, should consciously look for in a potential partner. I'll read it out real quick. Passion, integrity, happiness, intelligence, sexual assertiveness, financial responsibility, commitment to personal growth. And I think that's a good list for anybody who's looking for a potential partner. You want somebody who's, I see men who have this idea that women are not the co-pilots in a man's life. They're more like the stewardesses in a man's life. And I do not think that's a healthy way to look at it. Your female partner is going to be your partner. You want somebody who isn't some convenient ditz with a nice pair of tits on her. You want somebody who is a substantial human being in their own right. You don't want somebody who's helpless that you have to constantly be babysitting. You want a partner, a companion. This is important. If you're going to have a relationship that's going to last, like if you really don't care and you're just tossing around next morning like yesterday's leftovers, then whatever, then it doesn't really matter now, does it? I would still think you'd want to have some standards, but I'm a girl. Like, we're picky, like, by default. If you're looking for a long-term partner, you need to be picky too. You need somebody who... You need to find somebody who's got their shit together. And, that's not going to be a fixer-upper. It's not going to be the girl with the heart of gold who also happens to have borderline personality disorder. I dated a girl like that. So that's why she's my example. It's like, oh yeah, I know what that looks like. And that is one hot mess. So like you can't expect to, this is something my mom used to quote. I think it's from the Bible. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Which is not bad advice. You need a girl who's actually going to be a good and worthwhile partner. That means being a little bit picky, and it means not pairing up with somebody who's going to simply make you look good by comparison. Doing something different also means refraining from being sexual in new relationships. Nice guys must give themselves a chance to accurately evaluate the traits listed above by staying out of bed with a person until they really get to know her. Once the sex begins in relationships, the learning stops. Sex creates such a powerful bond that it is difficult to accurately evaluate the appropriateness of a new relationship. Thank you! Thank you! Somebody finally said it. Thank you. I am so happy that somebody wrote that down, because every book I've read up to now has been like, you can get a girl into bed in 3 dates and there you go. It's like, no, you really, really shouldn't be doing that. You need to build up the relationship first. You need to get to know the other person, because once you jump into bed, all the feel good hormones start running around in your brain. You're going to be way more interested in the next time you can get laid with that person than you are in all the little red flags that start popping up as you get to know her better. If you start having sex with a woman right away, you don't know who she is. And that's important, unless you plan on, checking her out like yesterday's leftovers. If you actually want to get to know that person, you really need to actually get to know that person. And if you want to have a stable relationship with them, then you really have to start building that relationship before you start having the sex. Like, this is something that I am emphatic about. My relationship with my husband, like, I studied that man very carefully. I was extremely cautious and extremely wary and extremely suspicious of him. And the closer we got and the more attracted I became to him, the more suspicious and paranoid I became. I absolutely had to know if I trusted him. Now, I'm naturally a more paranoid person, but I still think that that's a good way to approach a potential long-term relationship. If you want something that's actually gonna be good, you need to know who she is. You need to know that she's loyal. You need to know that she's trustworthy. You need to know that she's there for you and that she genuinely cares about you and not your money, and not, making her ex-boyfriend jealous, and not, just any number of other dysfunctional things that can happen. Especially these days when it's very obvious that women are doing all sorts of nasty, dysfunctional shit. You need to know that the woman you're picking out is a good woman. Recovering nice guy or not, this is what I think people need to do. And I will believe that probably till the day I die, or until someone comes up to me with some extremely convincing evidence to the contrary. But so far, I haven't seen it. I know that you don't want a girl who just holds back on sex all the time just because she can, and just because she's, frigid and not actually genuinely attracted to you, but you can't jump into bed with her right away. And one of the wonderful things is, and this is something we saw in Mystery Method, if things start getting a little bit romantic, if they start getting a little bit sexual and you pull away first, it makes her feel safe with you, because because she knows now that you're not going to take things spiraling out of control too quickly. And also it gives her a chance to kind of explore her attraction for you. And so it's a very good idea that you, as a dude, if you're watching this, don't hop into bed with the girl right away. Pull back a little bit, let her build up some sexual tension with you. If she actively pursues you, then you know that she's attracted to you. You know that she wants to have sex with you. It's a much clearer indicator. It's much easier to tell if a woman is interested in you if she's actively seeking you out. And that way you can continue watching her, studying her, being suspicious of her, trying to learn about who she is as a person. Is she genuine in her sexual overtures to you? Or is she just pretending to be attracted to you because she likes the fact that you've got a nice car and she thinks you've got money? All of this is important. But anyway, yes, that's chapter 7. So chapter 8, I'm excited about. Chapter 8 is going to be a good one. It is called Get the Sex You Want, Success Strategies for Satisfying Sex. It's an entire chapter about getting laid. I think this is awesome. I can't wait to read this. So I will read this and I will make another video and I will talk to you guys later.